Grace and peace, everybody. You saw the thumbnail, you saw the title, you know what we're about to do on this evening. So tonight's going to be a good one. We are going to be looking at a pretty interesting topic, and we're going to use Brandon, our good friend over at Mindslip, as our catalyst for this discussion. It is interesting because the video that he put up, it really makes no sense. I don't understand why he did it. There was no reason to do this video. Nobody was actually looking for it. Just like nobody's looking for the Whitaker Talk Show. What's up, homie? Oh gosh, I'm sorry, y'all. There we go.
Hi.
All right.
I'm making another bag.
You making another one?
Wait, can I show them my bag, like my current bag?
Sure. Go get your bag. Hurry up. All right. So, President Firstborn is learning how to crochet. She's crocheting, and she crocheted a bag, a purse. And so, all right, let's give her a chance. Here she comes, Mercy.
This is my bag. This is what I made. So then when you open it, it's like you got this stuff and you can put all your stuff in it. And I put a pocket. So, I don't think it can.
Oh, that was a trackpad. I shouldn't have did that.
This part can really only like hold my phone in my wallet because it doesn't have a base to it. So
Because you ain't got no money. That's why. Wait, don't keep moving the mouse pad.
Oh, sorry.
That was my dumb fault. That was my fault. I did it again. Rookie mistake. All right. Well, thank you, baby.
My little bag. So now I'm making another one.
I am glad that you're making another one. Thank you, sweetie.
Bye, Daddy.
Bye, baby. All right. All right. So that's President Firstborn. Good to see you all so much. But wait, I actually have a friend that's going to be stopping by on this evening. So new YouTuber, channel is named Womb to Tomb Apologetics. I want to invite him in because tonight he's going to sit second chair as we discuss this. So good to see you. Grace and peace. How are you, friend?
Hello. Welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, not a problem at all, friend. Not a problem at all.
The shout out.
Not a problem whatsoever. Do you mind dropping your link in the chat with everybody? The name of your channel and all the other good things. I know you're doing you did a video on feminism today. You've been talking about lots of different topics, and I want them to come and check out your channel, of course. So
yeah, for sure. Let me
good to see you, Shar. Always good to see you. DW in the building. Good to see you, man. RL West. Good to see you, friend. Grace and peace. I'm glad you like the bag, Shara. Lawrence is in the building. Good to see you, Frank. Good to see you. All right, we're gonna have a good time tonight. All right. Here we go. So yeah, the links are down in the description. Check out Womb to Tomb's channel. I would love for you to support him. I'm certain he's going to earn, after tonight, he will earn your subscription. So tonight, we are going to be talking about birth control. Now, it seems like an innocuous topic and should not be too controversial, I would think. Well, in mind slapped fashion, Brandon makes it some super convoluted, hyper Christians are terrible people type of argument. So did you want to add anything to that before we jump in on this evening, Womb?
No, I think we'll just kind of go through it and we'll take it step by step. But obviously, we know what to expect with our good friend Brandon over here.
Yeah. All right, so a couple things. Where did the video go? All right, a couple things. Cut the video a little bit short just to cut it a little short because there was some fluff on the end in the beginning. So this is the meat of the video, and this is video on contraception. So let us jump in. You just tell me when you want to stop, my friend. Hold on 1 second. I got a bad feeling about this. All right. Every now and then the videos don't want to play right. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna reset it since it did go afoul when my daughter was in here. Let me just real quick pull it back in from the beginning. Now we should be good to go. Sorry about that. All right. Let's get ready to have some fun. Brandon is back, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Let's get the shellacking. Here we go.
And it's something that I think is very interesting to
Real
talk
quick,
about.
if you
And so
don't
to get
mind.
into it, I'm first going to play you this clip. It's under a minute. Don't worry.
All right. So you had it real quick. Can you just drop down in the chat? Let me know that you can hear that. Just to make sure everybody can hear it. Can you hear it okay, Womb?
Yes, I can.
All right. I just want to make sure that the chat seems a few seconds behind tonight anyway. I hope that's not me. Shar says she can hear it. Perfect. All right. Let's back it up a little taste. Give him a running room to run. Do you want to tell him who it is that he's listening to yet, or do you want to wait till we get done?
Yeah, we can quickly introduce our Christian friend that he's going to show a clip of. That's Theology of the Body Institute on YouTube. It's a Catholic channel. I think they mostly specialize in kind of the idea of like Christian, or really specifically Catholic, dating, relationships, sex, sexual ethics, things like that. But as you and I spoke about earlier, unfortunately he kind of brings up this clip and doesn't really talk too much about it later, but we'll kind of address that. It's sort of a random thing, and then he just goes off on a tangent. So, but
He does that. He does that quite a lot. But I also want to point out theology of the body is an esoteric, dare I even say Gnostic idea that your physical body in union with your husband or your wife is some kind of relationship with how depicts who God is. It's very convoluted. I did a discussion about it actually when I talked about Julie Roy's in her book Redeeming the Feminine Soul, where she regales and talks so highly about theology of the body. That's actually what caused her to become an egalitarian. So there's a lot of missteps in there. But real quick, Womb, the author that he's going to talk to, what's his faith system?
The Theology of the Body, he's Catholic. So
he's Catholic. There's already going to be a problem because Brandon seems to have zero understanding of denominations, zero understanding of faith systems or anything of that nature. He seems to believe, and he's going to say it basically, that that we believe this as Christians when we don't. It's really weird, but he loves doing this.
Yeah, he needs to. He either doesn't know what he's talking about, or he does know, but he's neglecting to let his audience know that there are various views on this, and especially on the passage he's about to bring up. There is not one sort of set interpretation that all Christians universally read out of that verse. So, but we'll get into that.
Absolutely. All right, let's let it roll. Let's go.
Today's video will be short, and it's something that I think is very interesting to talk about. And so to get into it, I'm first going to play you this clip. It's under a minute. Don't worry.
How is it that it is morally acceptable to avoid a pregnancy with natural family planning, but not by using a condom? The intention of both is to avoid a pregnancy. Okay, what is the big difference then between sterilizing the act yourself and just waiting till it's naturally infertile? And my typical response to that over the years has been, oh, come on, what is the big difference between killing grandma and just waiting till she dies naturally? End result is the same thing. Grandma's dead. Yes, but there's a serious moral difference between killing grandma and waiting till she dies naturally, right? One is a serious sin called murder, and the other is an act of God.
All right. So we're talking about birth control, which is why you can.
Okay. This is what I mean. Like, I don't fully understand what my man was even trying to get to, Womb. But the problem is, what is the purpose of bringing that in? Because I have no idea. I have no context, nowhere to go with, nowhere to run to with that. I have no idea. I'm totally lost. What about you?
Yeah, so like you said, he kind of goes off on a tangent into some other stuff. He never brings the clip back up.
He never does.
He doesn't discuss the fact that there are different views on this, and he goes on to straw man him. I don't know if he's said this yet, but he talks about this is they believe that birth control kills a child, which is not necessarily true, depending on which birth control you're talking about. Not the kind of he was talking about, certainly. So he's just kind of straw manning him here, going off on this stuff. But I suppose this is a good time to kind of bring up what it is precisely that Theology of the Body Institute does believe, so that we can kind of go through as Brandon talks and see just how much he's sort of misrepresenting and kind of going all over the place. So Catholics believe in something called natural law theory, and this is technically something that many Protestants believe in too, but they apply it differently, and there's various things on it. But basically, they would just say that sex has two ends to it, two primary ends.
Okay.
The first one is like procreation, right? That's one of the chief ends of the activity, and then the other one is a union between husband and wife. And they would say, since this is built into nature by God, it would be wrong of us to not to participate in types of union that do not facilitate that are not ordered toward those ends, essentially. So,
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, again, there are Protestants who believe in that kind of thing, and that's fine. But again, he doesn't distinguish. He doesn't say that there are different views, and that's the problem here. If people are interested in learning more about that, you might look at. There's another good video out by Capturing Christianity, another former Protestant. He's actually now a Catholic, but former Protestant channel. He interviews Dr. Tim Hassau on natural law theory. He talks about abortion and things like that, kind of related to that if you're interested. But anyway, though, keeping back on the subject, though, yeah, he's really strawmanning our friend here and kind of going off on the rails.
No. Oh, he's gonna go off on the rails, but I'm gonna go off on him with him. Don't worry about it. I got a parachute. Let's go.
You can see I didn't want to talk about this for 30 minutes. I also don't want this to bleed over into when does life start, because that's kind of the point he's making here. I think there's a whole lot to say on that subject, and I do talk about it more in my abortion video if you haven't watched that. But for today's purposes, what I'm wanting to address is another aspect of harm that comes from the Christian belief. I'm going to give you some real.
So apparently, let's make sure we build this case. The idea that a husband and wife may do something to not have a child causes harm. Is that fair? Am I reading too much into that womb?
Well, that's what he's saying.
Yeah, that's what he said. I just want to make sure I understand his argumentation, because he's going to go fast and furious. Like I said, it's concentrated stir-fried foolishness. So I'm going to be stopping a lot. So I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I think we're on the right track.
Okay, I want to make sure I heard. Yes, Eric. Yes, a harmful Christian belief. Yep, you heard it right. You heard it right. So let's go.
World examples of how that harm plays itself out today. But first, I think we should address, why do people believe this, right? He is saying that it is a sin to use contraceptives because it's murder. At least that's the analogy that he's.
First of all,
there it is.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think any parent, there's a lot of parents in the chat right now. I don't think and husband, wife, married couples in the chat. I don't think anybody would think that they were murdering if the mother and father, their DNA did not come together to actually start the process. I do believe that life begins at conception. So to start the process of creating a little human, I don't think anybody would think that would not, because the logic is, this show might not be good for for children. The logic is, well, if a man not sharing his seed with his wife, but it getting on a napkin or getting on the floor or anything else, the logic is that would be murdering, following what Brandon just said. Is that fair? Did you get that as well?
Yeah. So, and this is again, we're like only not even a minute and a half in, and he's already just spouting complete nonsense. The funniest part is, he starts off talking about a Catholic, but then he goes on to describe a view that no Christian on the face of the planet actually believes at all, which is that contraception is murder. Catholics don't.
Right, where are you getting that from?
The Catholics don't even believe that thing, so it's just totally bogus. It's just, I mean, he clearly doesn't know much about the subject. And
no, he
as
doesn't.
we go on, we'll start to see just how shallow his understanding of these things is. But again, anybody can get a camera and a microphone and sit there and talk really confidently, but spout complete nonsense, abject nonsense like him. And, Yeah, they'll get followers because he sounds so confident in what he's saying, but it's not true. He says, I don't want to get into the topic of when life begins, and then he goes on to discuss
It says that
something,
you're murdering, right?
right, which is all predicated on when life begins. So I don't want to talk about that. Well, that's like the entire foundation of what you just said after that. So, yeah, but anyway.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's go.
Trying to make with waiting for grandma to die versus killing her, which is a false analogy. Even the best evidence that life begins at conception is because you have two DNA coming together to form a unique DNA. Attributing life further back to just the sperm itself, I think the Bible doesn't even say so. There's one verse and one verse.
No. Okay. So I'm going to have to, all right, everybody, write this down. I actually agree with Brandon right here. But the point, I think it's interesting. He brought the Catholic in for what reason? To convolute the argument, because he disagrees with what the man said. Then why are you using that? That's not in most. He even admits that we don't even believe that. So why did you even bring him in the first place? To convolute the argument.
Yeah. One last thing I'll say is actually the very first video on my channel is actually discussing the evidence behind when life begins and why it actually begins at conception. So if people are actually interested in learning about that, that's my first video.
And this link is in the description. If the moderators would just feel free to grab it. I think I got it right here. Yep. Link is in the description. Please check out Womb to Tomb's channel. Let us continue. Okay, our goal is to get to 2 minutes, okay? Because we're only at 1 minute and 45 seconds. We got to get there, all right? Let's try.
Only where you're getting this from. Now, there's some other verses about women's value being tied to reproducing and about our mission is to be fruitful and multiply. And so then purposely doing the opposite of that could be considered a sin, right? Like there's those arguments to be made, but the main one comes from Genesis 38.
Woo! I made it. Oh, I made it.
That was painful.
Woo! Where in the world did we get, like, again, if you're a person that is not a Christian and you support Brandon, that's perfectly fine. All I want you to know, or I want you to ask Brandon, why does passages that he cites? Because he just said that a woman's value is tied to her, that there's Bible passages that support a woman's value is tied to her being able to reproduce. Please show me that. Show me that.
Yeah. And another thing too is it's very vague language,
Extremely.
Her value. What do you mean by her value?
Yeah. What is that? What is that?
Are you talking about her, like her feeling of self-worth? Are you talking about how society judges her? What do you mean by that? That is, I want to equip our Christian friends with that question. That is probably one of the best questions you can have in your tool belt when you're talking with someone who disagrees with you.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
What do you mean?
You're not even making an argument yourself. You're asking them to flesh it out. And when you talk to someone like Brandon, who doesn't know what he's talking about, and you ask him that question repeatedly, it will expose just how shallow his thinking is. Because when you ask him, well, what do you mean by that? Can you give me a source? What do you mean by that? He won't have anything to say.
Book, chapter, verse, and context. Where does it say that? Now he does say that we're commanded, our mission is to be fruitful and multiply, which is true. But to say that they're not being fruitful and not multiplying is a sin, I'm sorry, that wouldn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Because there are, and if I'm not mistaken, there's only about 12 to 13 weeks of the year that a woman can get pregnant. So what, are they not supposed to be doing anything the other times of the year? This is stupid. But see, this is this childish thought process that Brandon brings into the equation. So basically saying you're sinning the other 40 weeks of the year if you're engaged, husband and wives are engaging in intercourse because they can't get pregnant. See, this is dumb. That's just dumb. Okay, I'm sorry. We made it 2 minutes. You think we would make it 2:15?
We'll try. We'll sure try.
8 verses 8 through 10, I think. Let me read it to you. Then Judah said to Onan, go into your brother's wife and perform the duty of a brother-in-law to her. Raise up offspring for your brother. But since Onan knew that the offspring would not be his, he spilled his semen on the ground whenever he went into his brother's wife, so that he would not give offspring to his brother. What he did was displeasing in the sight of the Lord, and he put him to death also. So this is...
Woo! Huh. I'm glad Brandon read slow. All right, 23 seconds. That's Onan's story. the Onan story. It's a very popular story as it relates to this topic. And so now here it comes. Why did God punish Onan? You want to answer, Womb?
Yeah. So, and feel free to chime in with what you think too. But
Oh,
I
I'll be
would
there.
say on this passage, first off, I'm glad he brought up scripture. First time for Brandon. Whoop.
Good job,
Good
Brandon.
job for him.
Gold
But
star for your yeah. Never
I
mind.
would say that this is, in my opinion, one of the very, very, very few times in the Bible where it's hard to get a very strict understanding of what's going on. You try to look up the answer to that question, what was Onan's sin? And you'll get a lot of different answers. I think, though,
Mhm.
that we can come to uh, a few good answers on this. So some people will say, oh, it was because um, he denied her a son, or he denied his father Judah a son. Some people will say, well, it's because he was, he wasn't, he spilled his seed, and so that means that that is a sin, right? If you're doing that, that's a sin. You shouldn't do that. You should always, uh, complete the act with your spouse. There's a variety of interpretations. I would say, though, I think based on the context, this has to do with him basically just fulfilling his duty. We know later on, I think in like Deuteronomy, the Lord speaks again on this, talking about the punishment for a similar thing. It's not
Mhm.
to die. It's not death penalty for it. It's like something to do with like mocking the person or something, shaming them somehow. So people have kind of gone back and forth on this, but yeah, it looks like you even put it
Yeah.
um, in the chat there for us. Thank you for that.
Not a
But
problem.
yeah, I mean, it's a difficult passage, but again, he speaks so authoritatively on it, like, oh, we know exactly what this means.
As if it's a settled fact. Like,
Right, right.
Monday follows Sunday, settled. There we go. And we know this to be settled. Um, I think in order to understand this, I think it's good to understand why the brother had to sleep with his sister-in-law. What was the purpose of that? And a lot of the time, Brandon seems to really, he has a very surfacey approach to biblical terms and biblical events. Because just think about it. And let's use the book of Ruth to help us understand that. What happened to Ruth, her sister-in-law, Orpah, and her mother-in-law when all of their husbands died? They were destitute, weren't they? They had nobody to care for them, nobody to go to the council on their behalf, none of that stuff. They were destitute. Those widows were destitute. It's almost as if the Lord is saying, don't allow a woman to go without some male in her family that will at least be able to carry on the name, but also be able to protect and provide for his mother. It's kind of like God knew what he was doing. And so if you have a sister-in-law that doesn't have any children, then the brother-in-law, by engaging in this act and having a child with his sister-in-law, will carry on his brother's name and at least give her a child that will, at least to some degree, shape, or form, be able to provide and help his mother. It's really that easy. But see, if you don't want the scriptures to be true, then you'll just go ahead and do whatever. Because watch this. He's going to actually say, never mind. I'm gonna let Brandon say it because I don't want to use the word, but you're not ready for what he's going to say. The Bible is telling this man to do to his sister-in-law.
It's kind of a fun verse just to talk about because it's so ridiculous in general. Like, I love that marriage and sex is this holy special thing and Christians want to protect it, and that's why we can't allow gay marriage, etc. See my video. But meanwhile, you have the God of the Old Testament by Levitical law forcing people that if someone's brother dies, you have to then go have sex almost immediately with his mourning wife because it is your duty to help him fulfill his offspring duty to God.
Did I dropped the passage in there? Did anybody see immediately in the passage? Let me just real quick make sure I pull that back up. See, this is why I point this out to those persons who follow Brandon. I don't have a problem with you following him, but just don't be duped by him. He will say things and introduce topics, ideas, and concepts into the passage that's nowhere there. It does not say anything about going to your sister-in-law while she's mourning. It says nothing like that. Nothing like that. Nowhere. That doesn't even make sense. But wait, he's actually going to get worse. I'm sorry, Womb. Did you want to add anything else? Why are you muted? Did you want to jump in and say anything else?
Let's just let him finish this thought, and then I'll weigh in here.
Oh, it's a mess. It's a doozy.
And by this verse, we can tell it's not just let's try one time. You try until you get it right. He went into her multiple times, and each time he spilled his seed on purpose. And so God struck him dead. So back to our cherry picking here.
Are you good there? Or you want to keep going?
We can keep going a little bit.
Idea that so many people are against contraceptives based off this verse alone, or the mental gymnastics of other verses about the importance of producing, which is different, right? Like that's a positive claim.
Who's arguing? I'm sorry, I can't stop. Who's arguing this? Like, who is
Nobody.
Brandon actually debating with in this time? I know nobody who's arguing what Brandon is saying.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I know nobody who is.
Right. And I'm looking for a certain word. I think he uses the word reading at one point. He says,
Oh no! Oh yeah! Don't ruin it yet. Stay tuned, people.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, because
Let's get to
he's
that.
going to say some pretty bombastic things. I'm pretty sure a lot of the ladies in the chat will not like what he's going to say in a moment. Let me back up
What I'll
just a little bit.
say for now, though, is he keeps using this word ridiculous. I would say the only person who's being ridiculous here is him.
Is you?
I mean, he's.
All right, let's keep it going. Let's go.
The importance of producing, which is different, right? Like that's a positive claim. You should go reproduce. Nowhere in the Bible does it say if you choose not to have children, God's going to kill you. And we see that God doesn't just kill people who don't have children. He killed Onan, though. So did he kill Onan for his own form of birth control? No, they don't even get it right. He killed Onan because Onan broke a Levitical law. That's it. You disobey God, you die. He had a duty to impregnate his sister-in-law.
Okay. But he's missing why. Like literally, the passage tells you really why. I mean, we can pull up more passages and get into the deep weeds of the Levitical law, which, by the way, I don't think anybody who is in 2023 going into 2024 who's practicing some form of birth control is using any passage from the scriptures to justify it. I don't think anybody is, but that is what it is. But it clearly says so that your brother name won't be blotted out of Israel. There was a reason for it. Okay, let's let him go because it's going to get more sporty. Here it comes.
He did not fulfill that duty, so he died. If the duty had been to give her a certain kind of loaf of bread and he didn't, he would have died. We just talked about this in my Leviticus episode on Thursday. There were all kinds of laws. We saw Aaron's 2 sons die because they used the wrong kind of fire at the ceremony for the tabernacle.
How easy is it? How convenient it is for Brandon to take the Hophni and Phinehas being killed by God to just say, oh, they just used the wrong kind of fire. They could have used birch wood instead of oak wood. And, they could have used propane. God is just petty. He's just, no, that's not it. And Brandon knows this. Again, you can disagree with me. I'm perfectly fine with that. DearWolkC@gmail.com. If you have a question, concern, or comment or problem, email management. We have no problem with that. But don't lie, though. Don't lie. Brandon is lying. It wasn't just that they used the wrong kind of fire. It wasn't. That's the thing that I think is really befuddling is that Brandon will deliberately tell you lies. Most of the people in my chat are not confused by that. Most of the people that follow my channel are not confused by that. Brandon is knowing that his audience does not know anything. He thinks that you're biblically illiterate. He thinks you're stupid, truth be told. And he's going to just say things that are as bombastic and wild as possible to get you to believe it. I'm just saying. All right, let's go.
So this isn't to do with God's view on contraceptives. It's to do with Old Testament commandments being punishable by death. I also think it's hilarious that the Christian or the Catholic or Protestant, whomever believes this kind of thing, and I would say on average Catholics believe it or push it on others more,
but they're not Christian. So don't lump me with them. That's like me I wouldn't lump Brandon with me, even though we're both bald and have beards. He's not me. And I'm not going to say Brandon is a black man because he's bald and has a beard. That's silly. That's silly. Okay. So let's stop doing that. But, you know, hey, we're just going to keep doing it because that's what we do, Brandon.
Fine with, and what this gentleman is mentioning here is natural family planning, which means only having intercourse when the woman is not ovulating, right? Tracking her cycles and having sex appropriately, which that's how you know that if they're okay with that loophole, they're not getting this idea from some New Testament verse about our responsibility to be breeders, because they're
Yeah, he just called y'all breeders. Yeah, he did. I'm gonna back that up a taste. Women, get your tomatoes and get ready to throw at the screen. Yeah, he's gonna call y'all breeders.
ability to be breeders, because they're fine avoiding it as long as they think it's natural avoidance. It is such a silly line in the sand to draw, but the real world implications of it are horrendous.
Okay, I have no idea where he's about to go. If you thought you were in Cuckoo Banana Town so far for the first 4 minutes and 41 seconds, I don't know where we are. We're off the map. We are in, I don't even know where we are anymore. Wait till you hear where he's about to go. Go ahead, Woo.
Yeah, so okay, this is a little more of a lengthy part of my commentary here. So I have a few notes on this I took. He does describe natural family planning right, to my understanding.
Mhm.
First time he'll get anything right, for sure. But what he gets wrong is his description of why avoiding impregnation through that method is the moral choice on the Catholic view. It's
Right.
morally permissible on their view because it works with God's design rather than trying to strive against it.
Very good.
You know, it's trying to use the function of the human body properly rather than medicating away the way your body is supposed to work,
Correct.
such as with the pill or something like that, or
Or
through,
condom, right.
yeah, or con, right. And so this is not hypocrisy, right? This is just working with God's design. So that's what they would believe, and he gets that part wrong. But then the more concerning part is where he talks about breeders. He calls Christian women breeders. Ooh, that's what they think you are. So yeah, he makes up some weird thing about that, which I found to be a little bit funny, given uh, his moral stances on things. Probably does a much better job of reducing women to breeders, as he likes to call it.
Mhm.
We've been seeing a lot in the news lately with, you know, gay
The plus,
couples
yep, the plus community. Yep.
hiring surrogates
Yep.
to make children for them. What is that if not using a woman solely as a vessel for
Right.
making a child? Like, that's literally all it is. There's no love involved. There's none of that. She is just a vessel. So if anyone is using women that way, it's not the Christians. It's
Correct.
not us. It's Brandon, right? And then he describes, you know, Christian sex lives as encompassing just breeding. That is just simply not true. There is far more depth to it than he could ever even come close to describing. You know, to us, this is a deeply intimate union of man and woman that we find very sacred. We find both of the people involved in that very sacred. We don't treat each other as objects to be used. We treat them as persons to be loved. You know, women and men are not animals to be bred on the Christian view, but persons to be loved. And um, though he doesn't mention men nor the love involved because he needs to play on the sort of feminist leanings of his audience. Um, you know, which is a view that can only exist, of course, like all of Brandon's views, in a world where his critics believe the straw man that he makes. So I think if he dealt honestly with his opponents, I think his views would be exposed as the morally bankrupt ones that they are. But that's something he can't allow to happen. So he keeps it vague. He distracts and misrepresents.
Absolutely. And we're going to hear in a moment, why in the world do you, and this is a question I keep asking Brandon's audience, because I love that they come and check out my videos and follow him. That's perfect. Why does he characterize and straw man the Christian faith like this? Because you know that you don't hear anybody talking like this, except, and I love that you pointed out, like, hey, gay couples are buying kids from heterosexual women. Is that not breeders? Is that not what it is? I mean, come on. So I do think, why does he do this? Why does he do it like this? Make a sound argument. Make a valid argument. Don't make a straw man and just push over straw man and call yourself a giant killer. All right, let's finish this up. I don't know if we're gonna finish it, but
Are women in their own marriage that are essentially treated as breeders, that despite how many kids they want to have, their husband, who they can't deny sex to except in times of prayer or fasting, but also believes that they shouldn't be using contraceptives, just forces her to be in a constant state of pregnancy.
who in the world is that? Who is he talking about? Now he does tell, and I will admit, there's a long story he tells in here about a family when he was a child that had like 13 kids or something great, and they were missionaries. Okay, got it. That's not, nobody's doing that though. America's birthing rate is significantly down.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
This is like, again, this is the sort of caricature you get out of like some like Hollywood like horror movie about
Absolutely.
like Christians or something. I mean,
Yep.
it is so off the rails nonsense. It's surprising to me that he has the amount of subscribers that he has, but I mean, again, it's actually I think he is an atheist. George Carlin once pointed out, he's a comedian. He said, think about how stupid the average person is. Now just think about this. Half of them are stupider than that, right? Which is so true. So, maybe
I might have,
what's
I might ask producer Jason to add that clip in here somewhere. So we might see that later. No, I think that's great. But wait, he's actually still, believe it or not, he actually has not found the floor yet. He's not gotten to the worst part yet. I don't know how this is possible. Let us continue.
Bringing more kids into the world than they can handle. I'll give you a personal example, and then we'll talk about a not personal example. The personal example is growing up, as many of you know, my family were missionaries, and we had all kinds of missionary friends. And we had this one family friend, and they were street preacher evangelist, and they lived in a van. They felt they were called to live in it was like an RV camper, and they didn't believe in contraceptives. I remember even my most fundamentalist mother explaining to me how ridiculous it was that they had these friends who were real nut jobs. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. Anyways, when I was still a child, they would come and they would park in the field by our house, and they had all daughters, 12 daughters. And I don't know what was going on now. The last time I saw them, they had 12 daughters and they were pregnant, and they didn't know what their 13th was going to be. And they all lived in this RV. It was like these tiny little bunk beds, and they just traveled around the nation for years on end preaching. That's it. I think.
Okay. So let me jump on this one real quick. So because I see somebody doing something that I don't agree with, and I truly believe, and probably most of society probably thinks isn't a good thing, that's my reason and rationale for besmirching everybody in that whole people group, because I see somebody doing something that I don't agree with. That doesn't even work. Brandon, this is so bad. Just because you know somebody who, and you don't feel like they were able to survive, but they were doing what they felt like they were supposed to do. Who are you to say anything? I don't get, and then to besmirch other Christians because these people were street preachers and they had 12 daughters. What does that got to do with anything? It sounds like a Cat in the Hat book about to start. But I mean, what's that got to do with you? And what's that got to do with me? Nothing. Womb, you got something you want to say on that?
Yeah, so I was just going to point out, this is something that Mike Winger, another Protestant YouTuber, very good Christian guy on YouTube, he calls this, what Brandon's doing right here, storytelling as truth making. This is a common method used by progressive Christians to usually they do it through emotion, right? Which is what he's trying to do here. Oh, look at this. Oh, they had to be in little bunk beds, and they had to be in the trailer, and they were
13 children.
And it's some sort of anecdote, right? Is supposed to completely invalidate an entire religion. I don't care about your anecdote, frankly. I mean, just to be frank about it, first off, you don't know how happy that family was. They could have been 10 times happier than Brandon. You don't know anything about that, Brandon.
Yeah.
But secondly, whether they were happy or not, that is nowhere near the standard description of Christian lifestyle, nor what nothing in the Bible commands you to do. So, it's an anecdote. It's not evidence. I met a Christian one time, and he would beat up his wife. Oh,
Well,
sorry to hear about that. That's not what the Bible tells you to do. I don't know what you're
right.
talking about, right? But because it's emotionally compelling. Oh my gosh, they were in the trailer, they were in the bunk bed. Ah.
Oh,
It makes people, the bleeding hearts out there, and they say, "Oh my gosh, that's really bad," So yeah,
also think about this. Brandon has gone on and on and on about not being in this example, the story that he told here. He was saying that the family couldn't afford to have more children. Is that fair? Did he say that? Or in his mind, he felt like they
yeah,
couldn't afford to have more children. Is that fair? So if they decided to say, hey, we have 5 children, we're going to stop and we're going to exercise some type of birth control so we don't have any more children, would that be smart according to Brandon, or would that be bad according to Brandon? Because Brandon has put himself above God in his argumentation. So it's smart because they're saying, hey, we can only afford 5 kids. So we're going to, practice some type of birth control so we don't have any more kids. Or we're going to just keep having kids. Which one does he want us to do? He seems to you can almost pit one part of the video against the other part of the video and just let Brandon argue with himself, because that's how ludicrous it gets. And I don't think he realizes how off the rails he gets, but it is what it is. Oh, we're going to make it, man. We are going to make it. We're going to get finished with this.
Think that's almost tantamount to child abuse. Now, I'm sure they love their children. I'm sure that they tried to provide the best that they could. They homeschooled their children. So I'm not making a personal judgment on child abuse for them and their individual family. I'm saying for people that do this and don't have the resources to adequately feed, clothe, educate, or protect that amount of children, that's child abuse.
Is it? So I wonder what Brandon would say if the government said that they're going to start using tax dollars to support all Christian missionaries that have 10 kids or more. I wonder what do you think Brandon would say with that, about that? Because Brandon's perfectly fine with the government taking your money to do anything else that he feels and deems correct. But what if they said, hey, we're going to help anybody who has 10 kids, and this family would fall in that range of, people that have 10 kids? I wonder what he would say. You just can't make this guy. This guy is a true gem.
It's not okay, and it does happen, and it happens more frequently than you think. You can look up the stats yourself. Atypical amounts of children for the sole sake of religious without considering earning capability. On a great
Why does that matter? Why does that matter? Why does earning capability, why is that the determining factor of the size of your family? Why? Because I know quite a few people in this chat right now that have more kids than I have, and I have 2. So I know quite a few of them that have more than that. And I know quite a few at my church that have way more than me. I don't look at them and say they can't afford to have children or can't afford to have more.
Yeah.
What you're going to do, y'all do what y'all doing. Clearly y'all enjoy each other. Keep enjoying each other. Why are you minding people's business? This should be called pocket watching or bedroom watching. Brandon, mind your own business.
Yeah, and you make a really good point, because usually we hear out of the mouths of progressive Christians that exact phrase. Why is it any of your business? Why you want to be in other people's bedrooms? Well, you want to be in everybody else's bedroom here. It's
Clearly,
and
he was
and
in this people's RV. You worrying about? Stop worrying about him.
And again, he feathers these things in. Even in his own anecdote, he doesn't actually list any type of abuse. But then he goes on to say later, "Oh, well,
It is child abuse. Right.
Not all Christians are abusive." Well, hold on, wait. Was anybody in your example abusive? You didn't tell us they were. You just said they had a lot of kids, right?
And he says it's child abuse. He says it's tantamount to child abuse. Not that there's some code in the state of Arkansas that said thou can't only have 9 kids and it must be in a 12-bedroom house. He doesn't say anything like that. There's no code that says that that's child abuse. You can have as many kids as you would want to have. And there you go. And I hate to say that you can just have many as you want to have, because you don't have to actually be able to afford them, because you can go on welfare here in the United States. So what are you talking about, Brandon?
Right. And he doesn't even say that that they're not well taken care of. He says all of them have a bed. He says they're all traveling across the nation. He didn't talk about their kids complaining about anything. Who knows? Again, like I said, they might have much more fulfilling lives than Brandon does, but he doesn't mention that, right? He doesn't bring that up.
That messes up the optics of what'd you say? Truth by storytelling? Is that
Yeah,
what you
truth
called it?
making
Yeah.
by storytelling. Yeah,
Say again.
storytelling as truth making.
There we go. Storytelling. So it messes up the story, and then therefore the truth telling would be derailed if you messed up the story. So yeah, because he does contradict himself by saying like there was no abuse, they were homeschooled, they're well cared for. But other people who do this, well, wait, what's your story about? All right, let's finish it
grander
up.
scale, one of the things that just bugs me the most, and I've come to this awareness after my deconversion, because all of a sudden I thought, wait a second, I still want to give money and help people less fortunate than me. And I've always given through the church. How should I give now? And it led me down this rabbit hole of effective altruism. And yes, it has its issues, but generally speaking, there's some good things there. And I started being
I love it. Effective altruism. There's some problems, but there's some good things there too. So I can give money to an organization and they may or may not do exactly what I want them to do perfectly, but they do some good things. Is that fair what he just said? Womb?
Yeah, I think you got it.
Okay. Because in like 10 seconds, he's about to contradict that. I just want to make sure I understood it correctly. Let's go.
more careful with where I gave. And some of the specifically Catholic ministries and Catholic charities that many people give their money to, they spend a lot of that money preaching instead of just helping. And
So apparently who you give your money to, he has to thumbs up how you actually use it. So instead of, I don't know what they're giving money to for preaching, but why are you giving it to Catholics? Why don't you give it to, he's from the Assemblies of God. His wife is a Lutheran. Why don't you give money to those organizations? And you can give them directly to the church that you're a part of. My church does quite a bit in our little community. We do quite a bit abroad as well, but we do quite a bit in our community. And since I'm a deacon, I see what we're doing. So why not? Oh, that's right. My bad. Did you want to add anything else to him?
Yeah, I was going to say this is yet another example, right, of why listening is very important, because you can catch your opponent or your, the person you're talking to. Maybe they're not necessarily an opponent, but you can catch them saying things that don't make any sense, right? They spend a lot of their money doing preaching. You say, whoa, wait, before you keep going, what do you mean by that? Ask that question again. What do you mean they spend a lot of money preaching? Now, I'm not a pastor, but to my understanding, what kind of money are they spending during the preaching segment? I would assume it's only the electricity bill so that the lights are on during the preaching. What kind of money are they spending? Like, oh man, we got to get the fog machines. We got to get the thing. Like, what are you talking about? They're spending all their money. Oh my gosh, they're spending all this money. I bet if you looked at any church's budget for where they're spending their money, especially a Catholic church, there probably isn't even a segment called preaching that they're designating money toward. This is just a ridiculous claim. That, again, if you ask him, what do you mean by that? He won't have anything to say.
And remember, and the contradictions just keep on rolling, because in another video where he did 20 ways that Christians don't follow what God said, well, he told us that we don't give enough in that video. And now he's judging what they're doing with the money that they're giving. Well, sir, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, hey, I'm giving it. If that be the case, then why don't you just go take care of it? Use the money yourself because he besmirched Christians because we don't pick up every homeless person that we see on the street and take them home and give them a shower. Well, then why don't you just go do that then, Brandon? You could literally go do that. You could go and take care of the homeless person that you see on the street and give him or her a meal, and then you could be giving, and then that way you know where the money's going directly. Oh, that's right. That's right. You just want to be a hypocrite. I got you. Never mind. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Let us continue.
You look at the big mission outreach of Catholic charity in Africa, for example, 150,000 children are born every single year already with HIV. If you're a Catholic missionary, you think that that might be the first thing you want to help address. Nope. You want to hand out Bibles and you want to tell these people that contraceptives are wrong. If that is your form of morality, if that is how you care about other people and you want to go and help this area that is lost, it's just to preach the good news of Christ to them and tell them how sinful it is for them to use contraceptives instead of, I don't know, using some of that money to provide them condoms, meeting an actual physical need for these people. I see this all the time in the comments on my own channel.
Okay, let me stop right there. This is why I wanted to talk about him. Thank you so much, standing for truth, standing for Christ. Thank you so much. This guy, I enjoy him because he's a literal walking contradiction. When you unmoor yourself from God's truth, you're just doing whatever. You're just floating wherever. And because he wants to, what he feels like, dunk on Christians, he'll just do whatever. If you realize, you could probably, if you've been watching this for the whole hour, you're probably wondering, like, what's the purpose of this video? Like, why is he doing this video? It doesn't make sense because he just has to do something, because he just had to do content and he felt like he would do it and thought that this would be meaningful, and it's totally trash. But even more than that, moving on past that, he keeps continually contradicting what he's saying. Right? Again, I might do a compilation of one side of the video versus the other side of the video and just let them argue back and forth for 5 minutes or something, because he literally is saying that if because, well, first problem is he's saying that Catholics are teaching this in Africa. So I don't know, in the chat, if you're Catholic, I guess he's talking to you, because me as a Protestant, I'm not teaching that. I've never taught somebody that using birth control, aka a condom, is bad or wrong. Never have done that, and I never will. So who is he talking to? And he knows that he's not talking to us, but he keeps lumping us together. And there's no way you can tell me that Brandon doesn't know that Catholics and Protestants don't believe the same thing. There's no way. He comes from Assemblies of God, for crying out loud. So he knows this, but he knows that his audience is not going to do the research. They're not going to check him. They're just going to go with it and run with it. And he's going to keep rocking in the views. And there we go. All right. You got anything else on there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, kind of working off of your last point there. Again, he makes a claim, but did he have any evidence for it? Yet another example, yet another opportunity in a conversation with someone like this. You ask, wait, how did you come to that conclusion? What do you mean by that? He just said, oh, well, you know, you're going to go out and you're going to tell them, you know, don't use condoms. You're going to go out and tell them this. You referring to Catholics. But where'd you get the evidence for that? That's just a claim. Claims aren't evidence, right? As the atheist, what is it? I forgot his name. Big famous atheist. He loves going around saying claims are not evidence, right?
Okay.
Well, that is true. Claims are not evidence, right? And he's just making a claim. They just want to pass out these things. No, what I would say is I would assume any Catholic missionaries going over there are probably, I would assume, trying a lot harder to stop them from committing the sexual sins that lead to HIV. Far more than they're concerned with telling them not to use condoms.
Correct.
And of course, that's a question. You know, where do most HIV cases come from? That's not a question Brandon wants answered, is it? Right? Because that would be inconvenient for his sexual ethical worldview, right?
Absolutely. And he misses, and he knows this, that the bigger issue is not if somebody's fornicating with a condom, they're not any less a sinner than if they're fornicating without a condom. That doesn't make them less of a sinner. They're sinning by fornicating, whether they are going to produce, whether that fornication is going to produce a child or not, is not the problem. The problem is that they're fornicating. So yes, we would be teaching you to do all that Christ told us to do. And part of that is a bodily ethic and keeping our sexual members in line in the marital relationship. It's really that easy. But he likes to low-hanging fruit this thing, and that's why I'm here. All right, let's get this done. We're almost there.
Well, Brandon, you have to understand, God didn't care to break our physical bondage. He came to break our spiritual bondage, don't you know? No, I don't know. God came to do, supposedly, about 1 billion things, like make sure that you impregnate your mourning sister-in-law.
Oh, here it comes. Here it comes. Get ready. Let me back that up. Oh, here it comes. Y'all, oh my goodness. I can't believe this. This right here just made me like, you got to be kidding me.
Supposedly about 1 billion things, like make sure that you impregnate your mourning sister-in-law by essentially what I would say is rape over and over, because I'm sure.
Yeah, he did. Yes, he did. He sure did. He absolutely did. He 100% did say that God is telling you to grape your sister-in-law. He said that. He did say that. I'm gonna back it up because you think I made that up. You know what? Y'all think I made that up. I'm gonna back it up. We're gonna hear it again.
God came to do supposedly about 1 billion things, like make sure that you impregnate your mourning sister-in-law by essentially what I would say is rape over and over, because I'm sure she didn't want that. That's what God wants. That
I actually I'm without words. I'm without words. And somebody asked me, like, Jason, why do you keep dunking on Brandon? Because, well, first of all, it's like elementary school kids playing against NBA players. But I want people to see just how vicious, dare I say, wicked and evil people are in order to try to make the scriptures and the God of the scriptures look like some moral, heinous monster. That you would honestly say that. But I do find it adorable that this is the same guy who says that a SA victim has to marry the assailant. And we talked about that in another video before. The problem is 3 verses before, it said that if somebody did that, they would have been murdered. They would have been killed by the community for committing an SA against somebody. So you're basically saying God wants a brother to SA his sister, and then I guess the community would kill him. Brandon, this is insane. This is insane. And don't blame it on the scriptures. It's not the scripture's fault. It's not the Bible's fault. So don't even waste your time down in the comments saying that the Bible is convoluted and not easy to understand. No, this guy right here is making it unintelligible. It makes it completely ludicrous. Okay, I'm done.
I got one thing to say here, though, real quick.
I will let you say it.
What I'll say is he ends that clip with, "I'm sure she didn't want that." I would just interrupt him in the middle of his sentence right there and just say, "Conjecture. What are you talking about? Where's your evidence? You just made a claim. Do you have evidence for that? Why should I believe a liar like you, Brandon? Why should I believe that?" And just let the awkward silence stand there.
Yeah, and to his point, to his benefit, he did say, "I think," or "I would consider this." Nobody cares what you think, Brandon.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Does the Bible say that?
The scripture says.
Right.
Yeah.
Does the scripture say that it wants, let me pull it back up just to make sure real quick, because maybe I missed it. I was talking fast and all that kind of stuff. Let me pull that passage back in. Here it comes real quick. Real quick. If y'all could just read that real quick and just, let me know where it says to grape your sister-in-law, a mourning sister-in-law. Yeah, I don't see it. Do you see it in there by any chance? Maybe it's on this one. No, it's not there. What about here on this one? No, I don't see that. I think it's fair to say that Brandon made that up. He just made it up. Whole cloth. It's crazy.
If you want, I can talk just briefly about sort of the vague concept of consent that he's talking about here as well. He's not very clear with his terms. If you want me to go into that, I can.
Oh, absolutely. Let's go.
Yeah. So he says, God commands grape, right? Which is not true, as we already discussed.
Correct.
This is somewhat of a hard view to dissect, since the way he uses the term consent there is a very vague term. Again, that's another example of where you say, what do you mean by that? Because the second he has to explain it, it starts to get a lot clearer that he's hiding the truth, right? So Brandon would probably label a sexual encounter between a husband and a wife, where, let's say, the husband says, "Hey, honey, you want to have a fun time in the bedroom? You want to do that, right?" And she's not quite in the mood right now, but she says, "You know what? Yeah, sure.
Sure.
I love you. I want to do this right now. I'm not necessarily in the mood at this moment, but I love you. And yeah, let's be intimate together. Let's do that. Yeah, sweet." He would probably label that on this definition as SA, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, hands down.
That is, of course, completely ridiculous, right? His view of consent is essentially, if I am not outwardly enthusiastic about doing something, it's being done against my consent. So if my mom tells me to eat my vegetables and I'm not really in the mood, but I put them in my mouth anyway. I eat my
right.
vegetables. I'm being force fed on his view.
Watch
If
this.
if I have sex, but I'm not quite in the mood, but I do it because I love my spouse, whatever, then I'm being raped. And if I get up in the morning and man, I'm not in the mood to go to work. Oh gosh,
Come
not
on.
work again.
I know
I'm
where
a
you're
slave,
going.
right?
Yeah.
No, I'm not being force fed. I'm not a slave. I'm not any of these things, right? Consent is basically voluntarily doing something,
Yeah.
right? And so, again, yeah, it's just ridiculous.
I do think it's adorable because this wouldn't apply. He would not apply that to anything else, anywhere else, as you just said right there. If I know Lady Dear Woke Christian wants me to go get gas in her car, and it's cold outside right now, and I'm currently wearing shorts. I don't want to go get her gas. But I know if I wait till tomorrow morning, it's going to be colder. So when I get done here, I'm gonna put on some shoes and I'm gonna run to the car and I'm just gonna pray real fast as I pump this gas and I'm gonna put gas in the car. I guess is she oppressing me? Am I a slave? Which one is it? I don't know. Like what is it? I don't know. But because I'm sure I can get some kind of brownie points or victim points for mommy and daddy time later on if I do this, right? So like, what is this? It it's almost laughable. You would almost think this was a comedy sketch. Brandon's channel would be a comedy. This is actually what Saturday Night Live wants to be. They want to be funny again. There we go. All right, we're almost there, man. We're almost at the end, at the finish line.
That and a billion other horrendous things. So, I mean, this is quick. This is simple. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. I think the point that I'm wanting to make with this is that as Christians, can you at least be consistent in how you utilize the scriptures? If you say that the reason contraceptives are a sin is because God gave us a calling, then don't use loopholes like natural family planning.
Well, real quick question. What Christians are saying that? Because he keeps lumping Catholics and Christians together, and he's doing it deliberately. I don't know any Christians that are saying that, but let's say they are. Who are they, Brandon? Come on. Oh my gosh. Yes. See, somebody understands what I'm talking about. Absolutely. Okay, it's cold here in Georgia, man. Come on. Don't be judging me. Don't judge me. All right. Put some pants on. Well, I don't want to. I'm wearing shorts in the house. Leave me alone. Stop
He's
judging
not
me.
in the mood to do it.
Right. Don't be oppressing. You're
him.
oppressing me. You're oppressing me. I do not consent to put on pants. Boom. There you go. Now, buy me a coffee. There you go. We're almost there. Almost a home stretch.
If you say that contraceptives are obviously a sin against God because of the example of Onan in the Bible, then
Who said
stop
that?
eating pork or shrimp or wearing mixed fabrics or getting tattoos, because it comes from the same Levitical laws that have to do with why Onan was punished for this. If you're going to demand that people look at context when they use verses, then look at the context of this verse. And
the funny thing is when he says that right there. If I point this out to him and say, hey, let's look at the whole Levitical law, he will quickly say that I'm cherry picking. They don't want the whole context. They don't. And I've talked to more atheists than I care to regale here. If there were 10 passages about this topic, and let's say Brandon was pointing out one passage out of the 10, but I say, hey, let's look at the whole 10 because then it gives context and makes sense. Nope, cherry picking. Like, that doesn't make sense. These people are ridiculous. See?
Yeah, I'll add one last thing here before we're almost finished. I'm just going to explain this to Brandon. I can't tell you how many videos I've seen this where he keeps confusing Old Testament laws. I cannot tell you how many. It's like almost every single video. Well, I'm not going to use the Old Testament because, the Christians always get mad at me. No. It's very simple. I'll explain it to you, Brandon. Okay. He confuses the main three types of Old Testament laws. Okay. There are moral laws. That's one category. Those are based on natural law, like, God's nature as well.
Yeah.
Things like don't have, unnatural relations, right? To use the euphemism.
Don't murder.
Arguably. Yeah. Don't murder.
Don't
right?
delete
10
anybody.
Commandments would be perfect, right?
Right.
Example for that. Arguably, between different branches of Christianity, don't use birth control devices. That's moral law. Okay. Then you have priestly or cleanliness laws, right?
Mhm.
Things about being clean before God, sacrificing to God for your sins, to cover your sins. And then you have Israelite civil law, things like what's the punishment if you murder someone? What's the if you steal from someone? How are we going to civilly play that out? Now, because we're under a new priest, the final priest, Jesus, under the order of Melchizedek, we are made clean by his final sacrifice. We don't need any more sacrifices. We don't need to do any. I can't eat shellfish. I'm not gonna be clean before I sacrifice in the temple. No. You don't need that. You're already clean under Jesus.
Absolutely.
And in terms of civil law, well, I don't live in ancient Israel, so I'm not subject to that jurisdiction anymore. And neither is anybody else, right? We're not time travelers. We're not in ancient Israel. None of those apply to us. So the things that continue to this day are the things that are based on God's character and the nature that he has created, right?
Yep.
Things like don't murder. That's true for everybody, right? That's not just true for an ancient Israelite, that's true for everybody. So if it's a moral law, right, based in nature or in God's character or something like that, that applies today. Everything else, that's not for us to do. You're eating shellfish. I don't have to avoid eating shellfish. I can eat all shellfish all day, and God ain't gonna be mad at me.
I can eat my bacon wrapped shrimp wearing my mixed fabric on Sunday, and it doesn't matter. But there's one thing that Brandon brings us up a lot. So I know that this is a sore spot in his life, and that is homosexuality, the plus community. And he likes to say, well, because he would immediately say, well, hey, according to all that you just said right there, then the plus community should be okay. No, because Christ affirmed the relationship between male and female in marriage. That was never changed. So therefore, say again?
It's natural law. Like it's part of the way God has created us to interact. It's not
absolutely right.
Completely, yeah.
So therefore, that one will never change. So yeah, God said, Christ did complete the priestly ordinance. So that's why we don't worry about sacrificing anymore. Christ did affirm all foods clean. That's why we can eat bacon wrapped shrimp on our lobster boat. Okay. But the relationship between male and female was never changed. And it is funny because Brandon mentions Genesis 3 in the beginning about the relationship between male and female to procreate. But then he gets all butthurt about the plus community when they can't procreate. So we're not like, wait, Brandon, we can't just, like, if you're saying the only reason for male and female interaction is to bring about a kid, then why is there male-male relationships? They can't bring about a kid, Brandon. It's really that easy if you're following your logic. We're almost done. I think we got 10 seconds left. We can do it. Come on.
Stop making horrendous real-world negative outcomes that hurt people both here and afar, whether it's the children of people having too many children that can't support them, or the wife that is just forced pregnancy after pregnancy, or the groups of people that have HIV, because the missionaries that are taking the time to use the charitable money that was given to helping these people would rather proselytize and judge than provide basic medical support.
Okay. I actually think that Saturday Night Live, my channel, because they could be funnier. Saturday Night Live would be funnier if they followed Brandon.
I agree.
They would be funnier again. It would be like the rebirth of the golden age of Saturday Night Live. If they started watching his show, because it's just that doggone ridiculous. All right, I'm sorry. That was crazy, man. That was so bad. Oh my gosh. All right. You got any final words?
Yeah, my final thoughts. So we already talked about the Christian aspect of this. I'd also just like to briefly mention that there are many secular arguments against at least certain kinds of birth control, particularly hormonal ones. I won't go over those, but I will say that those exist. Do you think for even one moment that Brandon has ever even explored those ideas? Does he even know that there are secular arguments against these things? Or does he even know about the reasons why many people who aren't even Christian say, I don't know, I kind of stay away from it, you know. And again, I'm not saying one way or the other what you should do, but has he ever explored those ideas? Has he ever even looked at those? Of course not, right? Of course.
I don't think
He's
so,
a
and I'll
guy
tell you
who
why.
believes he's a guy who believes that Catholics oppose birth control because it kills a baby. This guy doesn't investigate anything he talks about.
No.
You know, it's completely ridiculous. He doesn't honestly investigate anything because he's prideful. He thinks he knows it all, and he doesn't even look into it. So,
And I think this is again, I really want people to just start asking questions. Just ask Brandon questions. Why do you say this? Like, who is actually saying what you're saying? He literally at the end said that all these families can't afford their children, can't take care of their children. But the example he gave, the people were taking care of their children. He said that Christians keep their wives pregnant and pushing out babies. Lady Dear Woke Christian ain't pregnant. And we've been married for 22 years. What are you talking about, my guy? He just says these things and he doesn't get challenged. If you follow Brandon or somebody that espouses his teaching, just ask them, why are they saying these things and where is their evidence? Not just a story, but their real bona fide evidence that these things are happening. Where is it? And I think you would be well served if you did that. Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. What do you mean by that? And how did you get to that conclusion? Is a great question to ask, because otherwise they need to be challenged. They should be challenged. And it's okay to challenge. I have no problem with it. Challenge me. I'll show you where I am, book, chapter, verse, in context, how I came to this conclusion. But ask Brandon the same thing. How does he come to this? How do you make this assertion? And I think you'd be, dare I say, pleasantly surprised, but I think you'd be horrified by the fact that he's just making it up out of whole cloth. So, that was fun, man.
yeah,
That was good.
great.
That was good. I think we made it through. We got some good people showed up tonight. My good friend Willie Doc just popped in the building. Good to see you. Some reason or another now we're talking about the weather in your area, which is cool. Eric is in the building. Good to see you, my friend. Always. If I didn't speak to you earlier, I got my RL is in the building. Always. And DW. All right. I know I spoke to Kiana earlier. I love it. If I missed you all, please don't charge it to my head, not to my heart. Standing for Christ is in the house. Always good. Always good to see y'all. Thank y'all so much. So yeah, we womb to tomb apologetics. Hopefully this was a sales pitch for you all to go check out his channel, see what he's doing over there, like, share, and subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. Let me pull your channel back in. But womb to tomb apologetics, you mind telling us a little bit more about what you do as you make your close us out?
Yeah, so first off, thanks for having me on. This is fantastic.
fun.
I love this. You gave me an easy job to do. We had to debunk Brandon, probably the easiest video we could have chosen here. Oh my word, you know, he should have given me a little challenge here, but here we go. You know, that's Brandon for you. But thank you for having me on. So yeah, my channel, I talk about basically just how can we make good arguments for Christianity, the pro-life position, and then also like trad lifestyle, that is like traditional living, you know, Christian family dynamics essentially is what that means.
I got you.
And basically just thinking of how can we articulate good arguments, really get down to the root of what makes Christianity true, and these other beliefs as well. So yeah, I just had a video come out today on feminism and one of the many, many, many reasons why it's a bad theory and we should choose other theories over it.
Yeah.
So go check that out. I have another video coming out on that soon enough. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on. And
Oh no, that was a lot of fun.
Betty also asks here, pro-life or abolitionist. So like, I guess I can explain that super quick. So there's like different kinds of pro-life views. So there's people who call themselves pro-life. There's people who call themselves abolitionist. Abolitionists think that we shouldn't be incremental in how we approach abortion. We should just go straight for banning it. Pro-life people who call themselves that, tend to take a more progressive approach, like, okay, let's do this little by little. Let's do a 15-week ban, then a 10-week, then try to whittle it down. I don't technically fall into either camp. I'm just for whatever works. I leave that up to people to decide for themselves, but I'm just here to say that abortion's wrong, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I did a video on that. I am an abolitionist. I want us to just do away with the practice. There's no good reason to kill a little human. And so therefore I'm an abolitionist. So just do away with the practice and we'll let the chips fall where they may. There'll be some hiccups along the way. There'll be some things that we have to figure out. But I think there's no way to justify murdering a little person. And so let's just do away with that. So I'm an abolitionist. I'm not a pro-lifer. But if I saw the pro-life trending toward that incremental step down, like you were saying, I would be for that. But I see it as more like they're almost like a pushback. Like they're going, we do 10 weeks. Okay, let's allow, 12 weeks. Okay, well, all right. I see them going the other direction rather than
right
to zero. So that's me.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I might actually make a video one day on kind of one criticism of the pro-life approach. Some of the things you hear in that movement. Sometimes they don't sound so great. So yeah,
I got you. Well, man, I thank you so much. And looks like you got a couple people who said they've stopped by and already subscribed to the channel. So thank you so much, Violet. You got some good people. Man, you got some good people already checking out your channel, man. It's going to be, hopefully you'll see some good results. Let me see. What we got here? Many abolitionists also say to prosecute the murderer, the mama, not just the abortionist. Yep, I know that. And I think I know it's going to be a dicey topic, and the goal was not to get too far into the weeds. But if somebody was an accomplice, for example, if Jason and Womb to Tomb robbed a bank, and it was a shootout, and many people inside the bank and bystanders and whatnot died because we had a shootout and we robbed the bank, but we got into a getaway car and Betty was driving the getaway car. Betty too is an accomplice to that crime. So whether it be that she gets the death penalty like we should get because we were in a shootout, or whether she gets life in prison or something else because she was a getaway driver, she's also an accomplice to that. So I think that in that regard, if we start looking at it like that, I think people will stop being so flippant about the process. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I can comment super brief on this. So yeah, like again, there's different views on that. Pro-lifers tend to be for not prosecuting the mother. You'll hear things from them like, the woman is the second victim. I'll call her, which personally I find that to be a bit disrespectful and just sort of just morally incoherent in a certain sense. There is truth to the fact that there are women who are pressured into things, obviously. Just like there are men who are pressured into things. I don't think that necessarily takes away the moral obligation or responsibility of someone. What I will say though is historically, to my knowledge, in at least the United States and similar countries, historically they have not prosecuted the mother. They have used her to kind of get the bigger fish, the abortionist, which is similar to how we've approached drug crimes in the past. Sometimes they'll give immunity or a shortened sentence if you can give up your dealer, and then the dealer will give up his dealer, and so on and so forth, so they can kind of get the bigger fish. However, there are others who, again, like in the abolitionist camp, who will look at that and say, well, no. If you did the crime, you do the time, right?
You do the time.
And so I'm not here to necessarily push one view or the other. I'm for people doing whatever works. Let the states try it out, and hey, if we're getting people a lot better with one view or the other, let's go with that. But
I would say let's do away with murdering little people. Let's just all agree to killing little people is bad. Step one, deleting little people is bad. Now, the delete her and the deleted and the deletee, we can have a discussion about all that stuff. But let's just stop. If we could, it would be really cool if we just kind of stop deleting little people. And now from there, because it's interesting, kind of going back to what Brandon was talking about, if we added consequences for sin and as they should be, we would see some of the practices that bring about the sin probably would be reduced significantly. I'm just saying. So I don't think that there's a quick fix, but I think we could all agree. Let's stop killing. Let's just stop deleting little people, and then we can figure out the rest of it after we at least agree to that part. Let's get down the books. No more deleting little people. And now let's go. But yeah, so okay, that was a good conversation. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to see. Okay, so Shara's hiring is no different than when a woman hires a hitman to delete her cheating husband. Still guilty of the crime, even though she didn't do the deed herself. Absolutely. There you go.
Yeah,
You
she's
just-
an accomplice. Exactly.
Yeah, just change some words in here from woman to mom to husband to little person to hitman to doctor. And there you go. And you're right here. You're exactly right there. So like what makes it okay for her to hire a hitman? Like what makes that okay? The only difference is in walking would be those who do public crawling. Okay, I missed something. All right, they're having a
I
side
was trying to
conversation.
figure out what that conversation was about too. I can't
Oh,
figure it out.
let me tell you right now. Like, okay, this chat is crazy. They get into some of the best conversations. I call it family reunion. So sometimes you just kind of you walk in, you're like, I don't know what I'm hearing, but I'm just glad that you're here. I don't know what I'm hearing, but
Yeah, exactly.
these are my people. I love them though. So everybody, thank you so much. Thank y'all for going to check out Womb to Tune Apologetics channel. Let him know you saw us here. Support what he's doing. Hopefully, we'll be able to have you back on again, or maybe we'll do something else with you in the future. I think it'd be cool to see how your channel grows and how the Lord uses it as a way to teach apologetics and get people to start thinking, ask better questions, and ultimately make much of our Savior. So it's cool to have you, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. We'll have
All
to
right.
connect again. All right.
Oh, absolutely. Please make sure, as Susie Q says here, any questions, comments, concerns from tonight's video can be addressed to management, dearwokec@gmail.com. Always good to have those good conversations. Please make sure you, and Susie's on it again. Make sure you like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, all that good YouTube stuff, all that good stuff. But everybody, thank you all so much for hanging out with us tonight. I'm going to go see what Lady Dear Woke Christian wants and how cold it is when I go put gas in her car, because
Even though
she's
he's not in the mood.
I'm not in the mood. But as somebody said, I'm trying to get those points. Wherever it is, I'm trying to get those points. So those points will turn into opportunities during I'm trying to find it. See, I'm all off task now. I can't find it. It was somewhere. It's in here somewhere. Anyway, I'm using it for points for later on time. But Womb, thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you all hanging out with us tonight. Let's do this again real soon. Oh yeah, tomorrow I'm looking at Shannon Sharp and Kurt Franklin's video. Kevin Briggins and I are going to be doing that, going over Shannon Sharp and Kurt Franklin's discussion, the full video. So, oh, y'all did it. It's gonna be a fun one. So please make sure you got your drinks ready, got your popcorn. It's gonna be a fun night. So hey, everybody, thank you again. I'll see you all real soon. Grace and peace. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.